It was found at a flea market in Copenhagen, Denmark. It was a small cast brass piece, only about 2 inches long, with a screw hole at the bottom as if it once attached to something larger. The body looked decorative, shaped like intertwined twigs, and showed traces of gold paint or gold leaf. At the top were 2 identical sheets of brass bolted together, with a thin blade fixed between them. The blade cut down through 2 small holes, each about 8 millimeters wide. Whatever it was for, something would have been pushed through the holes and cut off. Any ideas what this thing is? It was a cigar and tobacco cutter, really more of a tobacco cutter, since it wasn't just for cigars, but also for rope or twist-style pipe tobacco that was popular well into the mid-1900s. A busy tobacconist could load both ends of the rope into the holes and slice it quickly into usable bits before packing a pipe, especially if a customer asked for a couple ounces cut up on the spot. When used more heavily for cigars, the brass blade would dull faster than steel, so having 2 cutting holes meant one could switch to the sharper side before needing to sharpen it again. Practical and efficient, but also a neat piece of smoking history. Have you ever seen one of these used in person? It was found in a Goodwill store in a small town. It was a large metal tool, heavy in the hand, coated in what looked like rust, or maybe thick grease. A friend thought it might be grease, since a lot of it rubbed off. When squeezed, it clicked and rotated a small metal bit. The end had a flat bottom, as if it was meant to stand upright while being used. It acted like it was built to stamp something, leaving a small space underneath the rotating piece where an item could be placed. Any guesses on what this was used for? It was a set of old steel banding tensioners, the kind you'd find in warehouses or shipping yards before everything got automated. The way it worked was simple but effective. You'd wrap a steel or plastic strap around a heavy box or even an entire pallet, overlap the 2 ends, and feed that overlap into the slot on the tool. By working the lever, the traction wheel would grip and drag the bands across one another, pulling the whole loop tighter and tighter until it was rock solid. If it was a steel strap, you'd then slide on a U-shaped metal clamp and use a separate crimping tool to squeeze it tight, locking the band in place. With plastic straps, you might use spring clamps or even a heat sealer to fuse the band ends together. Once the strap was secure, you'd release the lever, slide the tensioner off, and move on to the next package. These tools were the backbone of shipping and freight work for decades, designed to keep loads stable through long hauls and rough handling. It was found on a remote road near a hunting cabin, a short offshoot that dead-ended after only about 500 yards. There was almost no sign of traffic along it. The object itself was a plastic housing with a tail made of braided or spring steel. At the end of the tail, a small piece of fabric was zip-tied in place. The tail could magnetically attach to a shaft on the body and spin. One end of the body had female threads. The body was wrapped in fabric and held together with Velcro, which looked homemade. On the outside was a single button that could be pressed on or off. Inside was a battery pack for 4 AA batteries, wired to an electric motor and a small circuit board. The motor shaft connected directly to the tail. It turned up in an area known for dirt bikes and 4-wheelers, yet this was found in a spot with little reason for anyone to pass through. Does anyone recognize this? It was a predator decoy, the kind hunters and farmers use to either attract game or scare off unwanted animals. Usually made with a lightweight frame and covered in fur or feathers, it would sway or move just enough in the wind to give the illusion of life. Depending on how it was set up, it could draw in coyotes, foxes, or other predators by tricking them into thinking easy prey was nearby. Or it could be placed in a field or garden to discourage smaller animals from getting too close. It was found buried under hay in a 100-year-old barn in Nebraska. It had 2 pulleys on either side, clearly made for rope. In the center sat a piece that looked a little like a bass drum kick, though it did not move anymore. At the top was a hook, so it was meant to hang from something. The middle section could fold, which made it even stranger, especially with the 2 pulleys spaced so far apart. Any idea what this is made for? It was a F.E. Myers Universal Reversible Sling Pulley, the kind of heavy-duty hardware used back when hay trolleys and barn rigging were common on farms. This pulley was designed to be versatile, reversible, so it could handle loads from different directions, and built strong enough to take the weight of heavy hay slings or other cargo being lifted into a loft. Farmers would have relied on it to move large bundles of hay with ease, using ropes and tracks in the barn rafters to hoist and shift loads where they needed to go. It was found at a sale of old woodworking tools. It had a heavy metal blade, sharp near the handle but dull along the spiral. The handle was wood, worn smooth from use. Someone guessed it might have been for rug making, though how it worked or in what tradition was unclear. Any ideas what this thing is? It was called a churi, a traditional tool used for carpet weaving. In the hands of a skilled weaver, it helped guide and tighten threads, ensuring that each row of knots was firm and even. Simple in design but essential in practice, it was part of the rhythm of making carpets by hand, row after row, knot after knot, until an intricate pattern slowly took shape. It was found in an old man's basement. The markings on the outside and inside ring were in millimeters. It was very heavy, with a brassy gold color. The knobs were set on screws as if they could be wired. Inside, there were springs, and a lid went over the top. The lid was painted wood on the outside and lined with a green soft material on the inside. Could anyone tell what this might be? That is a tangent galvanometer. It was essentially a set of coils wound around a compass, allowing people to measure or detect very small voltages by observing how the needle was deflected by the magnetic field from the current. Once a standard tool for physics experiments and electrical work in the late 19th and early 20th century, it's now more of a collector's or educational piece. It was found while redoing the landscape at a newly purchased home. Under a grate was a large vault, and inside sat a big cylindrical piece of equipment with hoses or tubing running off it. The whole thing was giving off heat when uncovered. What might this be? It's a pad-mounted transformer, the kind utilities use to step down high-voltage electricity to the level used in homes. The cables inside are carrying lethal current, and even getting close can be dangerous. The missing cover makes it especially hazardous. The right move is to immediately call the power company and report the open transformer vault so they can send a crew to secure it. Until then, the best thing is to keep people and pets far away. It was found in an old garage. It was made of steel, with a smaller head than a framing hammer. One face had a cross notch cut into it, though any lettering under the rust was too faint to read. Unlike other soft face hammers, it had no inner lip or threads to hold anything in place, leaving it unclear how the face would have stayed attached. Does anyone know what it is? It was a bung wrench, the kind made for opening and tightening the plugs on barrels and 55-gallon drums. The design gave leverage to crack open stuck caps and let you reseal them tight without damaging the threads. These were common in warehouses, factories, and farms where oil, chemicals, or fuel were stored in bulk. It was found in a thrift store. It was a solid copper piece shaped like a skillet, with hand-cut scalloping worked around the edge. The metal was about 3 millimeters thick, and the handle was riveted on, made of the same copper. The uneven scalloping made it look handmade. What is this thing? It was Persian, a hand-worked copper smoker that would have had a lid on top. These were often used for burning herbs, incense, or even tobacco, depending on the tradition and time period. The missing lid would have controlled the burn and let the smoke flow out through openings.